Greetings, fellow Grimdark readers and listeners. I am your host, Mystery Cedric, bringing you the best reaction videos to MLP Grimdark fanfictions and poetic bed simulators that I can muster. And today, we're going to be reacting to Twilight's Fall. I'm doing this today because I just thought, well, since I just got done recording all that glitters, I might as well do it now while I'm currently in the mood for reacting to Grimdark fanfictions, because if I don't do it today, then I'm just gonna probably gonna delay it even longer, delay it again, just like I did with all that glitters. So I might as well do it now. And also I got someone requested someone by the name of Joey Garcia requested that I actually react to this video. So Joey Garcia, if you're watching this, then yeah, then I did take your request. I'm sorry it took this long for me to get to it. I've just been busy recording reaction videos on my main channel. So yeah. That's all I can say. The other thing I could say is that I haven't been in the main series in a long time. If you saw my previous video, I haven't seen the series since like mid 2015, and I have like refreshed my memory in my head of what went down. I won't spoil for what happens at all. If this is your first time seeing the Muffins main series, and if you're really interested, then if you want to avoid spoilers, then go on Raytana's channel. Then go to Raytana's channel, Raytana's channel. She has a full playlist of all the Muffin side stories and main stories on there. On there for you to catch up all the way up to now. I haven't seen the main story in a while, but I do vaguely remember of what happened previously. So without further ado, let's get to it. Sir time.
Warning: contains somewhat mature content, including language, brief violence, or mild sexual themes, and may not be suitable for people under age 14.
Now please take that warning into consideration, because that pretty much sums up the rest of the whole video. So if you're under the age of 14, or if you're kind of squeamish to this kind of stuff, then I'd recommend that you would go watch Rashad the Reactor react to or Try Not to Laugh challenges by Deke the One. I'll even give you a few minutes to click away for this video. However, the rest of you that came to watch the video, who specifically came to watch my reaction, you can stay. Are they gone? Sure? Okay. Let's do this.
The door to the main hall of the castle creaked open, and 5 ponies quickly looked over to see who had entered. Babs Seed gave her friends a reassuring smile, a green saddlebag hanging over her back. "It's just me,"
Hey, Babs.
she said, her voice echoing
It's been a while.
around the large and dusty room. Blinky Pie let out a heavy sigh, slumping her head on the cushion of the red chair she was sitting on.
And gals,
"I'm so
it's been a while.
paranoid,"
It's been a long
and
while.
bored. Is it even possible to feel those two things at once?
"Well, we haven't baked in about a week and we're still on the run,"
said Inky Pie.
"I'd say that's pretty reasonable."
Apple Bloom and Minky Pie were sitting next to one of the bookshelves, a thin book laying out in front of them. Babs watched them curiously, knowing that Minky Pie was still learning how to read. "What's this word?" asked Apple Bloom kindly, though her voice had a hint of somberness.
"Night,"
Minky Pie said almost inaudibly. Babs furrowed her brow. Something was wrong. It hadn't sounded like Minky Pie didn't know the word. It sounded like she was strained. The others seemed to realize this too.
You all right?
Inky asked her older sister. Minky Pie sniffled as tears rapidly began to fall from her green eyes. Apple Bloom immediately threw her arms around her.
It's all right,
She exclaimed.
you were correct. It was not. You're doing just fine. I'm not upset about that.
Minky said,
Oh.
her lip trembling.
Hey there, Mickey.
I feel so empty. I feel like my life was getting somewhere before it was ripped away when we were arrested.
I feel the same way.
It's
Blinky
been a
nodded.
while,
We
Mickey.
were all reunited.
It's been a while.
I thought things were
It's
going
good
to be
to
just as
see
fun
you
as they were before.
again.
And that day with Fluttershy pretty much confirmed it. But now we're just sitting in the castle because we can't think of a good way to catch some pony. Not with all the safety precautions and ponies looking for us. Babs can't do everything by herself.
I brought some sugar, Babs said, trying to smile and pulling out a medium bag of sugar from her saddle pack.
Won't do much if we can't bake.
Admitted Inky Pie, and Minky buried her face in her arms. Derpy fluttered over to try and help Apple Bloom comfort her. Where's Pinkie Pie? Asked Babs, suddenly noticing the most vibrant pony was missing. The others exchanged looks, all except for Minky, for she was still sulking.
She didn't come down this morning,
Apple Bloom said softly.
last night before we all went to bed. She got real quiet and hid in one of the rooms upstairs. We sort of all agreed to let her be. She hasn't been herself lately. I'll go see if she's okay.
Said Derpy, and she left Minky's side to exit the hall. She flew up the crumbling stairs to the room she knew Pinky had gone to the night before, and once she landed,
Pinky.
Derpy pushed it open.
Pinkie Pie?
She whispered, seeing a shape in the far corner. Derpy slowly crept toward it, eyes adjusting to the darkness. There was a pink pony sitting with her face to the wall, but instead of the usual poofy mane, there was a sleek curtain hanging over the side of her face.
Pickamina.
Pie? What is it?
Pinky said in a dull voice that was only slightly louder than her oldest sister's.
Are you alright?
Said Derpy, feeling very worried.
Does it matter?
Pinkie Pie was staring at the wall with an unchanging expression of grief. Her eyes were red and puffy, as if she had been crying.
It matters to me. You're my bestest friend.
Derpy whimpered. She had never seen Pinkie Pie like this in her time of knowing her, and it scared her.
Nothing matters.
Said Pinkie Pie, still in the same tone.
Not you, not me, not any pony. We're all worthless, useless. Nothing matters. Pinkie Pie, you're scaring me.
The pink pony didn't respond, but continued to stare at the wall.
Oh
Derpy
no.
bit her lip
Pinky's
and wrapped
being
her arms
suicidal
around her,
again.
flapping
This is
her
not
wings
good.
and lifting her into the air with difficulty. Pinkie Pie didn't object to being carried out of the room and back downstairs.
Pinkamena!
Blinky Pie shouted when she saw her little sister's condition, leaping from the chair and rushing over to them as Derpy landed. The others came forward as well, worry plaguing their faces like an aggravated parasite.
What's wrong with her?
Asked Inky Pie, touching Pinky's flat mane.
She keeps saying nothing matters,
Derpy replied sadly.
I don't know what to do. She's depressed,
Said Minky Pie.
We need to lay her down and keep a close eye on her.
She wouldn't hurt herself, would she? Said Apple Bloom in alarm.
I can't be too sure. I've never seen her like this, but I know how it feels to be in this state, so we shouldn't take any chances.
Said Minky. They all nodded.
Believe
and
me,
Pinky and Blinky
she
immediately
knows.
took Pinkie Pie from Derpy and hoisted her up onto a couch, laying her down. Babs looked on, feeling miserable herself as she watched Minky Pie stroke her youngest sister's hair, humming softly. Minky may have just been crying a moment ago, but it was obvious that Pinky's emotional well-being was more important to her than her own feelings. Hey, I gotta go, Babs said to her distraught friends. I just came to drop off that sugar. I'll sneak out tonight after bedtime, okay?
Sure, Babs.
Said Inky Pie. No more was said, and Babs turned to leave the room, walking down the hall and out of the front doors. As she journeyed through the forest and back to Ponyville, her mind was racing. Pinkie Pie's mane was flat, like it had been when she visited her in prison, but Babs had never seen her depressed before. It sucked all remaining happiness from her to know that their personal ray of sunshine had fizzled out into a dark pit of despair. Once back in Ponyville, Babs accidentally stepped on a wanted poster with all 6 of her friends' faces on it. She shook her hoof, trying to get it off, but the tape's adhesive would not let go. With a frustrated growl, she tore the paper off with her teeth and spat it back to the ground. As Babs massaged the bridge of her nose, trying to dampen her anger, she caught a few words of conversation from a pair of ponies standing at a nearby flower stand.
I wonder where they're hiding,
Muttered Junebug.
If the princesses can't even find them, it must be a pretty discreet place. I have no idea,
Squeaked Blossom Forth.
but I don't feel safe. I've been locked up in my house for a week ever since that poor Pegasus's head showed up in front of the town hall building. It took all my courage to leave once I realized I was running out of food. That was so horrible,
Junebug said with a nod.
I've been seeing that image in my nightmares. What was her name again? Fluttershy,
replied Blossom Forth.
I didn't know her that well, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm horrified she was murdered. And she had just gotten out of the hospital from the first time those horrible ponies kidnapped her. She was an element of harmony, wasn't she? Yeah, and so were her friends, including that Pinkie Pie, you know, the leader of this nefarious baking team. There were 6 of them, and now there's only 2 left. Twilight Sparkle is in the mental ward of the hospital. She's safe. Insane, but safe.
Babs blinked, her lips parting slightly as Blossom Forth paid for a couple of flowers and then hurried off, probably back to her home. She was very aware that Twilight was still alive. The thing was, Babs hadn't thought much about her, for all of her focus had been on capturing Fluttershy. Blossom Forth was right. Twilight was the last remaining element of harmony, aside from Pinkie Pie herself, and she felt that was an injustice
she always
to her and her
does.
friend's work.
In every
However,
story where the
Blossom
main
Forth was
6
also
are
correct
killed
in
off one
saying
by
that
one, she's
Twilight was
always
safe.
the last one standing.
How safe? Babs muttered to herself. Her eyes fell on the dirt-stained wanted poster on the ground, and she stared at the picture of Pinkie Pie. In the photo, her mane was flat, just like it was currently. It hurt Babs to see one of her best friends in such a state. This was not the Pinkie Pie they knew and loved. This was some disturbed shell that was a faint reminder that the party pony even existed. She had to fix this.
Can I help you, dear?
Said the receptionist kindly. Babs had made her way to Ponyville Hospital, venturing to the section that was reserved for patients with mental disabilities. Yeah, she said nervously. Can I visit Twilight Sparkle? The receptionist stared at her, but then picked up her phone and pressed a single button. After a moment, some pony answered.
Yes, this is Mayflower at the front desk,
She said to the pony on the other end.
I have a filly here requesting to see Miss Twilight Sparkle. No, I don't know who she is. Okay, thank you.
Mayflower placed the receiver onto its dock and addressed Babs again.
Miss Sparkle's doctor is going to come talk to you.
Okay, agreed Babs. She waited silently, wondering what she was going to do if she was not allowed to see Twilight. After a few minutes, a yellow unicorn with a blue mane and tail, blue-framed glasses, and purple eyeshadow came up to her. She was wearing a white doctor's coat and had a stethoscope draped over her shoulders.
Hello,
She said sweetly, and Babs felt much less intimidated.
I am Dr. Crystalheart. Were you requesting to see Twilight Sparkle?
Yes, ma'am,
Yep.
Babs replied strongly. She was a very good friend of mine. I just recently moved to Ponyville from Manhattan to help my family at Sweet Apple Acres. My cousin, Applejack, was also Twilight's friend and another victim. A tear escaped her green eyes, and she quickly wiped it away. I'm sorry. I'm not exactly over the tragedy.
I understand,
Said Crystal Heart, placing a hoof on the filly's shoulder.
Unfortunately, it's not visiting hours, so I cannot allow you to.
Please, Doctor! Babs exclaimed suddenly, meeting Crystal's magenta eyes desperately. Twilight is the only friend I have left. Those heartless murderers took every pony I knew and loved away from me. I'm so alone. Crystal Heart gave Babs a look of sympathy.
Well, Twilight has been doing a lot better since she was first admitted.
Babs held her breath.
All right, I'll make
I
an
highly doubt
exception.
it. Judging by the
It's
image here,
activity time
it
right
doesn't
now,
look
which
like
is on the
she's
third
doing any
floor,
better.
So I'll accompany you up there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Crystal Heart smiled and led Babs to the elevator, and the two of them stepped inside. She's doing better, you said?
Oh, yes,
Replied Crystal excitedly.
granted, she's not in any condition to be released, but we were able to take her out of solitary confinement. She is not restricted to a straitjacket any longer, and there have been no violent episodes toward herself or any other pony. The one thing we've noticed is she won't talk. When she was admitted, she was very unaware of her surroundings, but she'd still speak, though it was either incomprehensive babbling, repeating phrases about being a good friend or student, or screaming.
The elevator dinged, and then the doors opened. They stepped out onto a floor that looked like a very clean and brightly lit preschool. There were a few ponies with nurses' hats, one or two with a doctor's coat like Crystal Heart's, but every pony else was wearing a green gown and showed obvious signs of illness, whether it was in the way they looked or in the way they acted. Some of the patients sat in groups as they played with games and toys meant for foals, but there were a couple that sat on their own, seeming to not want to socialize. One of these ponies was a very familiar purple unicorn. Twilight Sparkle was sitting in a chair facing the window. She was staring out of it, completely unmoving, and Babs could not see her face.
Don't be surprised if she doesn't show any sign that she recognizes you,
Crystal Heart told Babs quietly.
She hasn't been able to communicate with any pony even before she stopped talking. I don't know if she'll even be aware that you're there.
She gestured for Babs to go over to Twilight.
I'll be over here if you need anything.
Thank you, Doctor, said Babs with a nod, and she slowly made her way across the room, pulling up an empty chair to sit next to the unicorn. She stared at Twilight, taking in her appearance. Her broken horn was covered in a bandage, her face was gaunt, there were heavy bags under her eyes, her hair and fur was thin, messy, and slightly discolored, and she made no sign of acknowledgement to Babs' presence.
Hi, Twilight,
Babs said softly. There was still no response. The unicorn just continued to
It's been a
stare out the
while,
window.
Twilight.
I'm Babs Seed. We met at the Summer Harvest Festival.
Twilight gave a slow blink, but did not shift her gaze. Babs sighed, thinking hard. She felt Crystal Heart's eyes watching them, so she gently reached over and started stroking Twilight's mane. The ill unicorn remained in the same state, the only movement made being her eyes blinking every so often and her chest expanding slightly as she breathed. Babs remembered her friend's story of how Twilight lost her mind, so she knew that the mare was mentally fragile. The doctor had said she
Yeah,
was doing
she
better.
she
so
lost
maybe
her
that
mind
meant
once
that Twilight was
on the
more
show,
aware of her
and she lost her
surroundings than she let on.
mind for real
Oh,
in the
Applejack's
Muffet
cousin.
series.
She whispered, leaning in a little closer. Twilight's blink
She
was
hasn't been
slightly
the same
faster
ever
this
since.
time, and Babs had to refrain from grinning.
And Apple Bloom's cousin.
She saw Twilight's eyes widen, and she knew she had her.
I know where the bakers are, Twilight. They told me all about what you did. How you poked your agate little nose in their business. How they had to capture you and your remaining friends. How they tortured you.
The unicorn's breathing became slightly more rapid.
Fluttershy's dead, Twilight. I killed her. It was fun. We made it into pastries. You're the last element left, aside from Pinkie Pie. Do you really think you're safe here?
Babs leaned even closer, hugging Twilight tightly.
They're gonna come after you. They broke out of jail. You think we can't break
I'm just
into a
emulating what
hospital?
Twilight's
You're
doing.
gonna die, Twilight. It's only a matter of time.
After a moment, Babs gently pulled away from the broken mare, whose eyes were wide as they continued to stare out the window. Her breathing was heavy, and she was trembling, her lips pressed firmly together. The fear radiating off of Twilight filled Babs with satisfaction, knowing that the unicorn had heard and understood every word she said. She knew that Twilight would not tell any pony about what Babs had just confessed, because it was obvious she couldn't talk. Her mental trauma was too great. Either that, or she simply refused to talk out of fear.
I'll see you soon,
said Babs, the volume of her voice returning to normal.
Take care, Twilight.
She got off of her chair and walked back over to Crystal Heart, who smiled.
Did you get any response from her?
She asked.
No,
Babs lied.
she's just staring out the window. But I told her that I missed her and that she's always in my thoughts. I didn't want to mention any ponies she knew because I was afraid it'd upset her. That was a good decision,
Crystal said with a nod.
We like to leave subjects like that for her therapy. Do you think she'll ever recover?
Babs inquired.
So far, we think not. But stranger things have happened, the doctor replied. We're considering her docile nature as a sign of mild recovery, but her lack of responsiveness is concerning. Can I come visit her again? Oh, certainly. But let me give you the visiting hours so that...
Crystal Heart was interrupted by a loud crash and many screams, and she and Babs turned quickly to see ponies crowding around the window that Twilight had been sitting in front of. The glass was broken, and Twilight was gone.
Back up! Back up!
Shouted an orderly at patients getting too close to the shattered glass. Crystal Heart turned on her heel and sprinted down
She
the winding
knows.
stairs. Babs and a number of nurses and
It was
doctors
a good decision,
following them.
Twilight.
Upon
You
arriving
can't just
outside,
stay.
there was a crowd gathered directly below the
Babs
broken
knew where
third
you were
story
at.
window,
The only
and
thing you can do
hospital
now is
officials
run.
fought to break through.
No!
Cried Crystal Heart. Babs, being so small, was able to duck under the surrounding ponies to get a closer look. Twilight Sparkle was crumpled on the ground, shards of glass glittering around her. Her limbs and neck were bent at odd angles, and her head was cracked open so severely blood was practically pouring out. Her open eyes were listless, and she was definitely not breathing. As the public was encouraged to disperse, Bab's look of shock was plain and true on her face. This was not what she had planned, or even expected. Looking up at the broken window, she narrowed her eyes at it, and then at the windows next to it, as well as below. There were no bars. How had she not noticed it before? Weren't mental hospitals supposed to have bars on their windows? While a stretcher was brought out to move Twilight's body, Babs walked around the hospital to the next side, seeing a few smaller windows that had steel bars. So, the patients' rooms had them, but not the halls or public rooms? Well, she was certain that that was going to change now that one of their patients had just committed suicide. "Babs!" called a voice, and she turned around to see Dr. Crystalheart hurrying toward her. Babs immediately scrunched up her face and started to cry. "Why aren't there bars on all the windows?" she wailed, gripping the doctor's coat in distress. Crystalheart seemed to be trying to stay professional, but her eyes were glossy. "We've never had a problem," she muttered. "We're a low-security ward." "My friend is dead! She's dead!" Babs sobbed, collapsing to the ground at Crystal's feet. "I know, honey," the doctor cooed, trying her best to comfort her.
I hate to say it, but I think Twilight, you made the right decision. It's either die by your own hand or die a slow death. Which I think I'd pick jumping out of a window, jumping to my death than the other one, because at least that one is quick and is at least quick. He's quick, and the other one is just long, slow, and not worth it.
She sniffled, wiping her eyes and nose quickly, sitting against the wall and covering her face. She was trembling hard as the corners of her mouth curled upward. Babs was laughing. "I'm back," Babs called as she entered the castle's main hall for the second time that day.
I didn't see hear the dialogue. I'm sorry, I had to rewind. I just had to hear it again.
Babs was laughing, her nose quickly, sitting against the wall and covering her face. She was trembling hard as the corners of her mouth curled upward. Babs was laughing. "I'm back," Babs called as she entered the castle's main hall for the second time that day. Though now
Babs got satisfaction out of that.
Babs, said Applebloom solemnly. They were all still crowded around Pinkie Pie, who hadn't moved an inch. "How is she?" Babs asked her friends, joining the group.
We tried feeding her. She won't eat.
Pinkie Pie explained.
Derpy's been crying over her, thinking she's dying.
"I just wish we knew how to make her smile again,"
Derpy said, clearly distressed. "We tried singing, party favors, jokes."
Now Pinkie's the only one
sounding
left.
Exhausted. "We even tried to get her to snuggle Gummy, but she ignored him." She pointed at the toothless baby alligator that was perched like a statue on the back of the couch. "Doesn't help that he doesn't do much."
"She hasn't even used the bathroom,"
added Minkie Pie.
"That
Pinkie Pie
alone
knows
isn't
that
helping."
knows
"I know
that well.
we'll cheer up," said Babs in a calm
He
voice.
knows
The
that
five of them
she's
stared at
she's
her.
the only
She could have
original
sworn she
element
saw
of harmony
Pinkie's ears
left.
shift. "Twilight Sparkle is dead."
"What?"
The five shouted in unison, and Pinkie Pie slowly sat up, turning to look at the Manhattan filly.
"How did she die?"
she croaked. "Suicide," Babs replied. "I went to see her at the hospital and told her that I murdered Fluttershy. I told her we'd all come after her next, that we'd break into the hospital and kill her. Not 5 minutes later, she threw herself out the window."
"How did she get through the window?"
asked Pinkie Pie.
"Aren't there usually bars on them?"
"In our hospital, only the patients' rooms have bars," said Babs, smirking. "It's low security. They didn't take that extra precaution because they felt they didn't need to."
Well, I'm sure they'll rethink that.
Inky Pie laughed. Pinkie's mane trembled slightly, and her eyes seemed to show more life. "What you say we take a look at our list and pick a pony to play with?" said Babs confidently. Pinkie Pie's lip twitched, and she nodded. Derpy quickly flew to the bookshelf and chose a large binder, opening it up to the page they left off on.
"All right, Derpy, who's up next?"
asked Pinkie Pie.
"Sweetie Belle!"
Derpy answered excitedly.
The description of this video was right. I forgot to mention this earlier, but Mickey, she sounds significantly different.
Suggested she was in disbelief.
"Babs Babs is friends with her. She'll have no problem bringing her to us. You mean all this time we could have played with Sweetie Belle? Said Blinky angrily. We were bored for nothing? We can't do Sweetie Belle, said Minky flatly, and every pony looked at her questioningly. Why not? Asked Derpy. Minky Pie met Apple Bloom's eyes and grinned nefariously. Apple Bloom seemed to understand, and her own smile matched Minky's. We can't do Sweetie Belle, she said slowly, without
Scootaloo.
I
Exactly.
both, no prob, said Babs.
You can't have one without the other.
Sound, and Pinkie Pie shot into the air with a delighted laugh.
It's party time!
She squealed. Her main intent
Hey,
was to
welcome back, Pinky.
Every pony
That's the
around
spirit.
cheered as Pinkie Pie landed back on the couch, and she seized Gummy in her hooves, hugging him lovingly.
And I have so many fantastic ideas! Let's bring them to the castle instead of using the super secret room under Sugar Cube Corner! We're going to have the fun right here!
What? Asked Apple Bloom.
You'll see!
Pinkie giggled, and the others agreed, hugging their favorite party pony in a grip embrace, glad to have her back.
Well, looks like the series is back in action. So that was Twilight's Fall, and honestly, well, I did not expect that. Well, I mean, first of all, I really like how the whole fanfiction gives off the fact that it's been a long period of time since the last Muffin story, Farewell to Kindness. And also, I did not expect Miss Pinkamena to be in this. Like she just came out of nowhere, and honestly, so far after reading it, after reading the end of it, I thought it was just a little bit pointless. I think it would have made sense if but this is just my opinion, right, Tana? If you're watching this is just my opinion. But I think it would make a lot more sense if Piggy was acting a lot all cheerful and stuff, at the beginning, and then have her be like all depressed and suicidal near the end, because then it would give off the feeling that Pinkie Pie came to the realization that she's the only original element of harmony left. The reality, the reality of what she had just done. It just finally catches up to her and collapses and hits her like a freight train. I think that would have made for a pretty powerful moment, at least in my opinion. But unfortunately, we just had to waste the whole suicidal part for the whole beginning of the story, and it kind of felt pointless. Pinkie Pie could have just been happy and cheerful in the beginning, and it wouldn't change anything. Also, Twilight's death, it kind of surprised me. I honestly thought Twilight would at least say something, or give some last words, or anything before she would jump out the window. But apparently not. She didn't say anything. She just jumped out the window because she knew that there's no way to wait, what's the way I could probably word this? That either way she knows that either way she's gonna end up dead. If she stays in the mental hospital, she'll get kidnapped and turned into a muffin. But if she jumps out the window, but if she jumps out the window, then she'll be able to then she'll probably die a pretty quick death, and not be turned into a muffin. And I really hate to say this, but I think Twilight made the right choice. I I really didn't expect Babs to think of that as a victory, and looking back, I'm thinking, why? Why was that considered a victory in your eyes? She wasn't a, you had all the potential to complete to complete your main 6 muffins collection. With Twilight being the last one, and you practically threw and you threw that opportunity out the window, and you made that opportunity jump out the window, literally, and you consider that a victory? I would consider that a pretty major defeat. Major defeat. Honestly, Babs, it would have been a lot more smarter decision if you would have just still acted sympathetic towards Twilight and not mention the fact that you were gonna bring the Muppets crew the mental hospital. I think it would be the best idea is to do the same strategies you used with the rest of the members in the main 6. Lay low until just lay low just lay low until Twilight is mentally ready to be released from the hospital, and then that's your time to strike. But apparently not. But apparently not. Vows just throw a perfectly good batch of cupcakes out the window. She let a perfectly good batch of cupcakes run out the window. And also, I already mentioned this, but Minky, she sounds significantly different. If you watch watch her for I think what should I say? If you watch her first appearance in the Pie Sisters reunite or the Pie Sisters reunion, she her voice is definitely a lot more different in in the older videos, and I think right now someone's gonna do an Obsidian Mickey Pie voice change after this episode. I'm definitely calling it. So, and yeah, I'm definitely glad. I'm definitely glad that the Muffin series is back on track. I know it's not back on track. It's gonna take a while I know it's gonna be a long while until the next one. And besides, and on top of that, on top of that, I still have to do a reaction to the Mad Musings of Obsidian Pie Happiness, which still has yet to be released. So yeah, my overall thoughts on this story was it was a great story, and overall a great comeback to the Muffins main story, but honestly some parts it kind of felt a little lackluster. So not lackluster, like the whole suicidal Piggy thing at the beginning would have worked a lot more better at the end, where Twilight kills herself, and the whole like I said, the whole reality of Piggy being the last element of harmony just crashes down on her, and it would have made for something really emotionally impactful. And even the whole thing about playing with about quote unquote playing and having fun with Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle wouldn't even cheer her up, because the fact still stands that she is the last element of harmony. I think it would have been really effective and done a lot for Pinkie Pie's character. But unfortunately not. And not we just had to throw that in there just for for pointless purposes. Eh, and and I'll and also Twilight's death was very unexpected. She didn't give any last words, so I guess we can consider her last words to. So I guess that means that Twilight's last words before going completely silent and committing suicide was, "I'm not a bad student." Uh, like, I'm just thinking that's gonna be written down in the dictionary of in the last words in the newspaper for elements of har for the elements of har the thing on the elements of harmony's last words. Right, but I mean, right? I mean, and I'm guessing. I cannot speak today. and so I'm guessing in that news tabloid or the or journal will probably be Twilight's famous last word. Famous last words. Twilight's famous last words. Rainbow Dash. Na na na. Right. The others. Na na na. And Twilight's last words were, I'm not a bad student. Twilight Sparkle 2015. Yeah. Yeah. So my thoughts are in this was it's a great story, though I do felt that some parts were a little lackluster and some parts didn't even really make sense. That's just my opinion. But anyway, I hope all of you enjoyed this story as much as I did, and I hope I'll get back to I'll do Silent Ponyville because Joltstar 109 just got done with his series and I didn't get done with his series, and I didn't want to feed a series because originally I was gonna do Silent Ponyville a lot more earlier, but when he started doing it, I decided to delay it because I didn't want to make people feel like people wanted it to feel like I was copying his idea. So hopefully I can get started on a reaction to Silent Ponyville. But anyways, keep that in mind. But anyways, I hope all of you enjoyed this video as much as I did. This has been Mystery Centric and Twilight's Fall, and as always, stay grim.